The radio kept playing "I'll Be Home for Christmas," and all I could think about was the child who wasn't my child. Except she wasn't mine anymore. Not legally. Not in any way that mattered to the world. But she was still mine in every way that mattered to my body. To my heart. To the empty space in my arms that ached every single morning when I woke up. It was Christmas Eve. My first Christmas without Lily. 3 months and 12 days since I'd signed the papers. 3 months and 12 days since I'd placed my daughter in Sarah and Michael's arms and watched them become her parents while I became something else. Something I didn't have a word for. Not a mother. Not exactly. But not a mother either. I was sitting in my childhood bedroom at my parents' house, staring at my phone. Waiting. Sarah had promised me updates. Photos. A text message on Christmas to let me know how Lily was doing. It was part of our open adoption agreement. Nothing legally binding, just a promise between two mothers who loved the same child. But it was 9 in the morning on Christmas Eve, and my phone was silent. Empty. Just like my arms. I checked it again. Nothing. No messages. No missed calls. No photos of my daughter's first Christmas. What if they forgot? What if they were so caught up in being Lily's parents that they didn't remember I was waiting? What if they decided I didn't deserve updates anymore? What if the openness of our open adoption was already closing? My mom's voice came from downstairs. Hannah! Breakfast is ready. Come down before it gets cold. I took a deep breath. Put on my smile. The one I'd been practicing for 3 months. The one that said I was fine. That I was healing. That placing my daughter for adoption had been the right choice and I had no regrets. The smile was a lie. But it was the only thing keeping my family from asking questions I couldn't answer. They didn't know. My parents. My younger sister. My aunts and uncles and cousins who would all be here by dinner time. They didn't know I'd been pregnant. Didn't know I'd given birth. Didn't know I'd spent 2 days in the hospital holding my daughter before signing her away. They thought I'd been away at college. Taking summer classes. Working on my degree. Living my normal 21-year-old life. They had no idea that life had stopped being normal the day I saw 2 pink lines on a pregnancy test. The day I realized I was carrying a child I couldn't keep. The day I made the hardest decision of my life. I went downstairs. My sister Emma was already at the table, 17 and carefree, scrolling through her phone and laughing at something. My dad was reading the newspaper. My mom was flipping pancakes, humming along to the Christmas music playing from the kitchen speaker. A normal family. A normal Christmas Eve morning. And me, the ghost at the table, pretending I belonged here. Pretending I was the same Hannah who'd left for college 3 years ago. Did you sleep okay? My mom asked, sliding a plate of pancakes in front of me. You look tired. I'm fine, I said. The words I always said. Just stayed up late reading. Another lie. I'd stayed up late crying. Staring at the photos on my phone from the hospital. The ones I'd taken before Sarah and Michael arrived. The ones where Lily was still mine. You need to get more sleep, my mom said, that worried tone in her voice that made guilt twist in my stomach. You seemed so exhausted since you got home for break. Are your classes too stressful? Maybe you should cut back on your course load next semester. I'm fine, I repeated. Really? Just end of semester stuff. I'll rest during break. Emma looked up from her phone. Are you coming shopping with me and Mom today? We need to pick up a few last-minute things. The thought of being in a crowded mall, surrounded by families, seeing mothers with babies, watching children excited for Christmas, it made my chest tighten. But saying no would require an explanation I couldn't give. Sure, I said. Sounds good. I pushed my pancakes around my plate. Couldn't eat. Hadn't been able to eat properly since September. Since I'd signed the papers and walked out of that hospital and left my heart behind. My phone was on the table next to my plate. Face up. So I could see if a message came through. I tried not to stare at it. Tried to focus on the conversation happening around me. But every few seconds, my eyes would drift back. Checking. Hoping. Waiting. Nothing. Sarah had been so kind at the hospital. So understanding. She'd held my hand while I cried. Told me I was brave. Promised me we'd stay in contact. That I could watch Lily grow up through photos and updates. That I wouldn't be shut out of her life. You're her birth mother, Sarah had said, tears in her own eyes. That's forever. That matters. We want you to know her. We want her to know you someday. This isn't goodbye. But 3 months later, sitting at my parents' breakfast table, it felt a lot like goodbye. It felt like I'd given my daughter away and now I was supposed to just move on. Go back to college. Finish my degree. Pretend it never happened. Except my body remembered. My breasts still ached sometimes, phantom sensations of milk that no longer came. My stomach was softer now, marked with faint stretch marks that I couldn't explain to anyone who might see them. My arms felt permanently empty. I excused myself from breakfast and went back upstairs. Locked my bedroom door. Pulled out my phone and opened the folder of photos I'd hidden deep in my camera roll. The ones I looked at every single day even though it hurt. Lily, minutes after birth. Her tiny face scrunched up, eyes closed, perfect in every way. Lily in my arms, me staring down at her with a look of such complete love and devastation that I could barely stand to see it. Lily being held by Sarah for the first time, Sarah's face full of joy and gratitude and overwhelming love. And the last one. The one that broke me every time. Me kissing Lily's forehead goodbye. My final moment as her mother before I became something else. I'd had 2 days with her. 48 hours. The hospital had been accommodating, giving me a private room, letting me bond with her before the adoption was finalized. 2 days to memorize every detail. Her smell. The sound of her breathing. The way her tiny hand would curl around my finger. The weight of her in my arms. 2 days, and then I'd had to let go. The social worker had explained everything beforehand. About attachment. About bonding. About how those 2 days might make it harder. But I'd wanted them anyway. Needed them. Needed to be her mother, even if it was only temporary. Now those 2 days haunted me. I couldn't close my eyes without seeing her face. Couldn't lie in bed without feeling the ghost of her weight against my chest. Couldn't exist without wondering what she was doing right now. If she was happy. If Sarah and Michael were good parents. If she missed me at all, even though babies that young weren't supposed to remember. I checked my phone again. Still nothing. It was almost 10 now. Maybe Sarah and Michael were busy. Maybe they were traveling to family. Maybe they'd send the update later. Or maybe they'd forgotten about me. Maybe I didn't matter anymore. Maybe I was just the woman who'd given birth, and now that they had Lily, I was no longer necessary. The thought made me feel sick. Made the walls of my childhood bedroom feel too close. Made my chest tight and my breath short. I couldn't do this. Couldn't spend the whole day waiting. Couldn't sit through Christmas Eve dinner with my extended family, smiling and pretending and dying inside. Couldn't make small talk about college and future plans when all I could think about was my daughter's first Christmas. But I had to. Because no one could know. That was the deal I'd made with myself. If I told my parents, they'd want to know who the father was. They'd ask questions. They'd be disappointed. They'd look at me differently. Better to carry this alone. Better to let them think I was fine. Better to be the ghost at the table than the family scandal. My phone buzzed. I grabbed it so fast I almost dropped it. But it wasn't Sarah. It was just a notification. A Christmas sale from some store I'd shopped at once. I deleted it and felt tears burn my eyes. Stop it, I told myself. Stop crying. You chose this. You made this decision. You knew it would be hard. But knowing it would be hard and living through it were two different things. Nothing had prepared me for this. For the physical ache of empty arms. For the constant wondering. For the grief that sat on my chest like a weight, making it hard to breathe. I'd done research before making my decision. Read about open adoption. About birth mothers who felt at peace with their choice. About how it was an act of love, not abandonment. About how I'd be able to watch Lily grow up, just from a distance. But no one had told me it would feel like this. Like I'd left part of my soul at that hospital. Like I'd be walking around incomplete for the rest of my life. My mom knocked on my door. Hannah? We need to leave for shopping in 20 minutes. You almost ready? Yeah, I called back. Just getting dressed. I changed into jeans and a sweater. Put on makeup to hide the dark circles under my eyes. Practiced my smile in the mirror. Fixed my face into something that looked normal. Happy. Holiday appropriate. The mall was a nightmare. Everywhere I looked, there were mothers with babies. Strollers and car seats and tiny Christmas outfits. I saw a woman nursing her infant in the corner of a store, her face soft with contentment, and I had to walk away before I started crying. Emma was looking at jewelry. My mom was examining Christmas decorations even though we already had too many. And I was standing in the middle of the store, surrounded by people living normal lives, feeling completely alone. I checked my phone. 11:30. Still nothing. You okay? My mom asked, appearing next to me suddenly. You seem distracted. Just thinking about finals, I lied. I think I did badly on my biology exam. Oh, honey. I'm sure you did fine. You always do fine. You put too much pressure on yourself. If only she knew. If only she could see that my whole life was pressure now. The pressure of keeping this secret. The pressure of pretending I was fine. The pressure of living with a decision I knew was right but that was destroying me anyway. We finished shopping and went home. The house was already filling with relatives. My Aunt Karen and Uncle Tom. My cousins. Everyone loud and happy and full of Christmas spirit. I retreated to my room again. Checked my phone. 1 p.m. 6 hours since I'd woken up. 6 hours of waiting. 6 hours of silence. Maybe something was wrong. Maybe Lily was sick. Maybe that's why Sarah hadn't texted. Or maybe, and this thought was worse, maybe Sarah just didn't think about me anymore. Maybe she was so absorbed in being Lily's mother that the woman who gave birth to her had become irrelevant. I opened our text thread. The last message was from 2 weeks ago. A photo Sarah had sent of Lily sleeping, wearing a little green sleeper. Growing so fast, Sarah had written, "She's perfect. Thank you again for this incredible gift." Gift. That's what everyone called it. The gift of life. The gift of a child. The gift I'd given Sarah and Michael. But it didn't feel like a gift. It felt like loss. Like grief. Like a piece of me was missing and would be missing forever. I typed out a dozen responses to that last message and deleted them all. What was I supposed to say? "You're welcome for the gift of my child? Glad she's perfect even though I'm dying inside? Please don't forget about me even though I'm just the incubator?" I'd settled on a simple "she's beautiful" and left it at that. Now I stared at my phone, willing it to buzz. Willing Sarah to remember. Willing the universe to give me this one thing, just a photo, just proof that my daughter existed and was loved and was having a good first Christmas. Dinner was at 5. The whole family crammed around my parents' dining table, which had been extended with 2 additional tables to fit everyone. I sat between Emma and my cousin Jake, who was 15 and talked nonstop about video games. I smiled and nodded and pushed food around my plate. No one seemed to notice I wasn't eating. No one seemed to notice I wasn't really there. "Hannah, your mom tells me you're doing great at school," my Aunt Karen said from across the table. "What's your major again?" "Psychology," I said. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was studying psychology while actively avoiding dealing with my own psychological trauma. That's wonderful. What do you want to do with that? I had no idea. A year ago, I'd had plans. Goals. Dreams. Now I just wanted to get through each day without falling apart. "Maybe counseling," I said. "I haven't decided yet." "Well, you have time," she said kindly. "You're still so young." Young. 21 years old. Old enough to give birth. Old enough to sign adoption papers. Old enough to make life-altering decisions. But still too young to drink legally or apparently to know what I wanted to do with my future. I excused myself to the bathroom and checked my phone in the hallway. 5:30. Still nothing. My hands were shaking as I opened my messages, checking to make sure I had service, making sure I hadn't missed anything. Nothing. Silence. Empty. I let myself cry for exactly 2 minutes in the bathroom. Then I washed my face, fixed my makeup again, and went back to the table. After dinner, we opened presents. This was our family tradition: Christmas Eve gifts, usually pajamas and small things, then big presents on Christmas morning. I opened a package from my mom and found soft flannel pajamas with snowflakes on them. "I got everyone matching sets," she said happily. "I thought it would be cute for photos." Emma groaned but smiled. My dad laughed. Everyone else oohed and awed over their sets. And I sat there holding mine, thinking about how Sarah had probably bought Lily a Christmas outfit. Probably something adorable and tiny and perfect. Probably planning to take photos. Photos I might never see. "Thank you," I said to my mom. "They're perfect." After presents, my parents put on a Christmas movie. The whole family settled in to watch, but I couldn't focus. Couldn't sit still. Couldn't stop checking my phone. 7 p.m. 8 p.m. 9 p.m. Nothing. No message. No photo. No proof that Sarah remembered her promise or that I mattered at all in Lily's life. I felt something breaking inside me. Something I'd been holding together for 3 months. The pretense. The strength. The brave face. It was all cracking, crumbling, falling apart. I went upstairs while everyone else was absorbed in the movie. Locked myself in the bathroom. Sat on the floor and let myself really cry. Not the quiet, controlled tears I'd been allowing myself in private moments. But the kind of crying that came from somewhere deep and painful. The kind that made sounds I couldn't control. The kind that shook my whole body. I cried for my daughter. For the 2 days I'd had with her. For all the moments I was missing. For her first smile and her first laugh and her first Christmas. For the weight of her in my arms that I'd never feel again. For the future I'd given away. For the mother I'd been for 48 hours and would never be again. I cried until I had nothing left. Until my face was swollen and my eyes were red and my chest ached from the force of it. Then I washed my face with cold water and tried to make myself presentable again. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. The girl staring back looked haunted. Hollow. Like a shadow of the person I used to be. My phone buzzed. I grabbed it, my heart racing, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped it. Sarah's name appeared on the screen. A message. Finally. I opened it with trembling fingers. Hannah, I'm so sorry this is coming so late. We've been traveling to Michael's parents and the day got away from me. But I didn't want Christmas to pass without sending you this. Below the text was a photo. Lily. Wearing a red velvet dress with white trim. She'd grown. Her face had filled out. She looked healthy and content and absolutely perfect. She's thriving, Sarah's message continued. So alert and happy. We tell her about you every day. About how brave you were. About how much you love her. Merry Christmas, Hannah. Thank you for the greatest gift of our lives. I stared at the photo. At my daughter. At her perfect face and her tiny hands and the way she was looking slightly to the left of the camera, probably at Sarah or Michael making funny faces to get her attention. She was beautiful. She was loved. She was exactly where she was supposed to be. And I was exactly where I was supposed to be too. Here. Apart from her. Watching her grow up through photos on a phone screen. Being grateful for scraps of information about a child I'd carried for 9 months and held for 2 days. This was the deal I'd made. This was what open adoption meant. Being close enough to see her but too far away to touch her. Being her birth mother but not her mother. Being part of her story but not part of her daily life. I texted back. She's perfect. Thank you for remembering. Merry Christmas. Simple. Calm. Giving nothing away about the fact that I'd spent the entire day spiraling. About the fact that I'd been checking my phone every 5 minutes. About the fact that this one photo was the only thing keeping me together. Sarah's response came quickly. Of course I remembered. You're always on my mind, Hannah. You gave us everything. The least I can do is keep you updated. I'll send more photos after Christmas. Promise. I saved the photo. Added it to my hidden folder with all the others. Then I went back downstairs, where my family was still watching the movie, and I sat on the couch and I stared at the TV without seeing anything. I had a photo. Proof that Lily was okay. Proof that Sarah hadn't forgotten. Proof that I still mattered, even if just a little bit. It should have been enough. Should have filled the empty space. Should have made Christmas bearable. But it didn't. Because a photo wasn't a child. An update wasn't a relationship. A text message wasn't motherhood. And I was realizing, 3 months into this, that maybe it would never be enough. Maybe this ache would never go away. Maybe I would spend the rest of my life grieving a loss that everyone else called a blessing. That night, lying in bed in my new matching pajamas, I pulled up the photo again. Stared at Lily's face. Traced my finger over her features on the screen, wishing I could touch her for real. "Merry Christmas, baby girl," I whispered to the phone. "Mommy loves you. Mommy misses you. Mommy's sorry she couldn't be what you needed." Because that was the truth. I couldn't be what Lily needed. I was 21 with no job and no partner and no stability. I was still figuring out my own life. Still trying to become a person. I couldn't raise a child. Couldn't give her the life she deserved. Sarah and Michael could. They had a house and careers and each other. They had family nearby and a nursery decorated and everything ready. They could give Lily everything I couldn't. That's what I told myself. That's what kept me going. The knowledge that I'd made the right choice. That Lily was better off. That love sometimes meant letting go. But knowing something intellectually and feeling it emotionally were two completely different things. My head knew I'd made the right choice. My heart just knew it hurt. Christmas morning came too early. I'd barely slept. When I did sleep, I had dreams about the hospital. About holding Lily. About the moment I'd handed her to Sarah and walked away. I woke up with tears on my face and an ache in my chest that wouldn't go away. Downstairs, my family was already awake. Emma was excited about presents. My parents were making Christmas breakfast. Everyone was cheerful and bright and celebrating. And I was the ghost again. The shell of a person going through the motions. We opened more presents. I got books and clothes and gift cards. Nice things. Things I would have been excited about a year ago. Now they just felt meaningless. Material objects that couldn't fill the void. I thanked everyone. Smiled. Played my part. And inside, I was counting the hours until I could go back to school. Back to my dorm. Back to the place where I could be alone with my grief instead of having to hide it. My mom cornered me in the kitchen while I was making coffee. "Honey, are you sure you're okay? You seem so distant. So sad. Is something going on?" I almost told her then. Almost broke down and confessed everything. About the pregnancy. About Lily. About the adoption. About the fact that I was drowning and didn't know how to ask for help. But I couldn't. Couldn't bear the disappointment in her eyes. Couldn't handle the questions. Couldn't face the reality of making my secret pain into something public. "I'm fine," I said. The lie felt heavier than usual. Just tired. School's been a lot. She looked at me like she didn't quite believe me, but she didn't push. Just hugged me and told me she loved me and let me escape back to my room. I spent the rest of Christmas Day alternating between being with my family and hiding in my room. Between pretending to be present and staring at the photo of Lily on my phone. She'd celebrated her first Christmas. She'd worn a beautiful red velvet dress. She'd been held by her parents, her real parents, the ones who would raise her, and probably been passed around to grandparents and aunts and uncles. She'd been loved and celebrated and welcomed into a family. And I'd spent the day pretending I didn't know she existed. That night, after everyone was finally asleep, I opened my laptop and went to the online support group I'd found 3 months ago. A forum for birth mothers. Women who'd placed their children for adoption and were trying to navigate the aftermath. I'd been reading posts for months but had never actually written anything myself. But tonight, with Christmas ending and the weight of the day crushing me, I finally posted. First Christmas after placement. 3 months out. Everyone says it gets easier. When does it get easier? Because right now it feels impossible. I hit post and immediately felt vulnerable. Exposed. Like I'd admitted something shameful. But within minutes, responses started coming in. It doesn't get easier. It gets different. You learn to carry it. I'm 5 years out. Some days are harder than others. But you survive. First Christmas is the worst. Every first is the worst. First birthday, first holidays, first time seeing other babies that age. It's brutal. But you're not alone. Be gentle with yourself. You did an incredibly brave thing. The grief is part of the love. Let yourself feel it. I read through the responses, tears streaming down my face again. These strangers understood. They got it. They knew what it felt like to be the mother who wasn't a mother. To love a child you couldn't keep. To grieve a loss that no one acknowledged. I wasn't alone in this. That didn't make it hurt less. But it made it slightly more bearable. Knowing other women had survived this. Knowing I might survive it too. I wrote back. Thank you. I didn't tell my family. They don't know. I'm carrying this alone and I don't know if I can anymore. More responses came. You don't have to carry it alone. We're here. This community is here. You can be honest here even if you can't be honest anywhere else. Consider telling someone. A friend. A counselor. The secret makes it heavier. You deserve support. Whatever you decide, know that your feelings are valid. The grief is real. The loss is real. Don't let anyone tell you it should be easier by now. I stayed up until 3 a.m. reading posts and responses. Reading stories from other birth mothers. Some had open adoptions like mine. Some had closed adoptions and hadn't seen their children in years. Some were at peace. Some were still struggling decades later. All of them understood. All of them got it. All of them knew what it was like to be the woman who gave birth but didn't get to be called mom. When I finally closed my laptop and tried to sleep, I felt slightly less alone. The pain wasn't gone. The grief wasn't resolved. But I had found something I desperately needed: validation. Proof that I wasn't overreacting. That my feelings were normal. That this was genuinely as hard as it felt. The rest of Christmas break passed slowly. I went back to school in January, relieved to escape my family's concerned glances and probing questions. At school, I could hide in my dorm room. Could cry without being heard. Could exist without having to pretend. Sarah sent more photos in January. Lily at 3 months. 4 months. Growing and changing and becoming her own little person. Each photo was a gift and a knife. I treasured them and they destroyed me in equal measure. I started seeing a counselor at the student health center. A woman named Dr. Chin who specialized in grief and trauma. I told her everything. About the pregnancy. About the placement. About the secret I was keeping from my family. About the guilt and the grief and the constant ache. You're experiencing disenfranchised grief, she explained. Grief that isn't acknowledged or validated by society. Because you chose adoption, people expect you to be at peace with it. They don't recognize that you're still a mother grieving the loss of her child. Even though it was your choice, it's still a loss. That grief is real and valid. Hearing it explained like that helped. Having a name for what I was feeling. Having someone who understood that choice and grief could coexist. That I could know I'd made the right decision and still be destroyed by it. Do you think you'll ever tell your family? Dr. Chen asked during one session. I don't know, I said honestly. Part of me wants to. Wants to stop hiding. Wants them to know. But I'm scared of how they'll react. Scared they'll be disappointed. Scared they'll look at me differently. And what about Lily? Do you plan to be part of her life as she grows up? That was the question that kept me up at night. Sarah and Michael had promised an open adoption. Updates. Photos. Maybe visits someday. But what did that actually look like? Would Lily know who I was? Would I be Aunt Hannah, some vague figure in her life? Would she understand that I was her birth mother? Would she resent me for giving her away? I don't know, I said again. I want to be part of her life. But I don't know what that means. Don't know what role I'm supposed to play. Don't know how to be her birth mother without being her mother. There's no rule book for this, Dr. Chen said gently. You get to figure it out as you go. You and Sarah and Michael can define what open adoption means for your specific situation. It doesn't have to look like anyone else's. Over the next few months, I started to heal. Not completely. Not in a way that meant the pain was gone. But in a way that meant I could function. Could go to class and do homework and have conversations without constantly thinking about Lily. She was always there, of course. Always in the back of my mind. Always part of every decision I made. But the acute grief started to dull into something more manageable. Something I could carry without collapsing under the weight of it. Sarah continued to send updates. Photos every week. Little videos sometimes. Text messages about milestones. Lily's first real smile. Her first time laughing. The way she discovered her hands and spent hours staring at them in fascination. Each update was precious. Each one reminded me that I'd made the right choice. That Lily was thriving with Sarah and Michael in a way she never could have with me. But they also reminded me of everything I was missing. Every milestone was one I wasn't there for. Every photo was taken by someone else. Every memory being made was one I wasn't part of. In March, Sarah asked if I wanted to visit. To see Lily in person. She said she thought it would be good for me. Good for Lily too, eventually. To have a relationship, not just updates through a screen. I said yes immediately, then spent the next 2 weeks terrified. What if seeing Lily in person made everything worse? What if I couldn't handle it? What if I broke down in front of Sarah and Michael? What if holding her again made me regret my decision? But I had to see her. Had to know that she was real. That she wasn't just photos on a phone but an actual child. My child. The daughter I'd placed but still loved more than anything. The visit was scheduled for a Saturday in April. 7 months after placement. 7 months since I'd held her. 7 months of wondering what she looked like in person, how she smelled, how her skin felt. I drove to Sarah and Michael's house with shaking hands and a racing heart. I'd gotten their address months ago but had never driven by. Had never let myself be that person, the one who showed up uninvited or stalked her child. But today I was invited. Today I was welcome. Sarah opened the door with Lily in her arms, and the sight of them together made my breath catch. Lily had grown so much. She was bigger, more alert, more present. And Sarah looked like a mother. Confident. Natural. Like Lily belonged in her arms. Which she did. Lily did belong in Sarah's arms. That was the whole point. That was why I'd chosen adoption. But seeing it was different from knowing it. "Hannah," Sarah said warmly, stepping aside to let me in. "Come in. We're so glad you're here." Michael appeared from the kitchen, smiling. "Hey, Hannah. Good to see you. Can I get you something to drink?" I was barely listening. I couldn't take my eyes off Lily. She was looking at me with curious eyes, not recognizing me at all. Why would she? I was a stranger to her. Just someone who looked at her with inexplicable intensity. "Would you like to hold her?" Sarah asked gently. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Sarah transferred Lily into my arms, and the weight of her, so much heavier than I remembered, almost broke me. She smelled different. Like baby lotion and formula in someone else's house. Not like me. Not like the hospital. She'd become someone else's child in 7 months. She'd grown and changed and moved on. But she was still my daughter. Still had my nose. Still had that tiny birthmark on her left shoulder that only I knew about because I'd stared at every inch of her during those 2 days. "She's beautiful," I whispered. "She is," Sarah agreed. "Thanks to you." We spent 3 hours together. Sarah and Michael were kind and welcoming. They showed me Lily's nursery. Told me about her routine. Let me feed her a bottle and change her diaper. Treated me like I mattered, like I was important to Lily's life. But I could see the truth. Lily belonged to them now. She smiled at Sarah in a way that meant mama. She calmed down in Michael's arms in a way that meant daddy. I was just a visitor. A guest in my daughter's life. When it was time to leave, Sarah walked me to my car. "This doesn't have to be the only visit," she said. "We meant what we said about open adoption. About you being part of Lily's life. You can come back whenever you want." "Thank you," I managed. "That means a lot." I drove home and cried for 2 hours straight. The visit had been good. Had been healing in some ways. Had proven that Lily was loved and happy and thriving. But it had also been devastating. Had made the loss more real. Had shown me exactly what I'd given up. That night, I called my mom. For the first time in 7 months, I told someone the truth. "Mom, I need to tell you something. And I need you to just listen. Okay?" There was a pause. Then, "Okay, honey. I'm listening." So I told her. About getting pregnant during my sophomore year. About making the decision to place the baby for adoption. About the 2 days in the hospital. About Lily. About Sarah and Michael. About the grief I'd been carrying alone for 7 months. About the visit today and how it had broken me all over again. I told her everything. And then I waited. "Oh, Hannah," my mom said, her voice thick with emotion. "Oh, sweetheart. I wish you had told me. I wish you hadn't had to go through this alone. Are you disappointed?" I asked. "Are you mad?" "No," she said firmly. No, honey. I'm heartbroken that you carried this alone. I'm sad you didn't feel like you could tell me. But I'm not disappointed. I'm proud of you. You made an incredibly difficult decision. You chose what was best for your baby over what was easiest for you. That's love, Hannah. That's real, selfless love. I started crying again. It hurts so much, Mom. I thought it would get easier, but it just hurts. I know, she said. I know, baby. And I'm here now. You don't have to carry it alone anymore. Tell me what you need. Tell me how I can help. We talked for 2 hours. I told her about the support group. About Dr. Chin. About the photos Sarah sent. About the plans for more visits. About how I didn't know how to be Lily's birth mother, but I was trying to figure it out. And my mom listened. Didn't judge. Didn't criticize. Just loved me. Just told me I was brave. Just promised to be there for whatever came next. Do you want to see pictures? I asked finally. Of Lily? Only if you want to show me, she said. I sent her 3 photos. Lily in the hospital. Lily at 3 months. Lily from today's visit. My mom called me back immediately. Hannah, she's gorgeous. She looks just like you did as a baby. That nose. Those eyes. She's perfect. She is, I agreed. Sarah and Michael are great parents. She's so loved. So happy. I made the right choice. And you're allowed to grieve it anyway, my mom said. Making the right choice doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. You can be at peace with your decision and still miss her. Both things can be true. Both things can be true. That became my mantra over the next few months. I could know I'd done the right thing and still grieve the loss. I could be happy Lily had a good life and still wish I could be the one raising her. I could love Sarah and Michael and still resent them sometimes for having what I couldn't. I could be healing and still have really hard days. I told my dad next. Then Emma. They reacted similarly to my mom. No judgment. Just love and support and sadness that I'd carried it alone for so long. Emma was angry I hadn't told her, but she understood. She held me while I cried and told me I was the bravest person she knew. Having my family know changed everything. I didn't have to pretend anymore. Didn't have to hide when photos came in from Sarah. Didn't have to manufacture excuses for bad days. I could just be honest about what I was going through. My mom started coming with me to some of the visits with Lily. Sarah and Michael welcomed her warmly. You're Lily's birth grandmother, Sarah said. Of course you're welcome here. Birth grandmother. Birth mother. These prefixes that marked us as biological connections but not family in the traditional sense. We were adjacent to Lily's life. Important but not central. Loved but from a distance. Summer came. A year since I'd found out I was pregnant. A year since my life had changed completely. I was 22 now. About to start my senior year of college. Still figuring out who I was in the aftermath of the most defining experience of my life. Lily was 10 months old. Starting to crawl. Babbling constantly. On the verge of her first words and her first steps. Sarah sent me videos of everything. Invited me to visit once a month. Kept me updated on every milestone. And I was grateful. So grateful. The open adoption was more than many birth mothers got. Sarah and Michael were honoring their commitment. I got to watch my daughter grow up, even if it was from a distance. But I'd be lying if I said it was enough. Because watching wasn't the same as being there. Updates weren't the same as daily life. I was part of Lily's story, but I wasn't part of her life. Not really. In August, Sarah called me instead of texting. That was unusual. My heart started racing. Was something wrong? Was Lily okay? Hannah, hi, Sarah said when I answered. Everything's fine. Don't worry. I just wanted to talk to you about something and it felt too important for a text message. Okay, I said, my heart still pounding. We've been thinking about Lily's first birthday in September, Sarah said. And we wondered if you'd like to be there. We're having a small party. Just family. But your family, Hannah. You're part of her story. We'd really love for you to be there. Her first birthday. The day I'd given birth to her. The day that had changed my entire life. A year ago, I'd been in a hospital, holding her, memorizing her face, preparing to say goodbye. I'd love to, I said, tears already forming. Thank you for including me. Of course, Sarah said warmly. And Hannah? I know this year has been hard. I know we can't fully understand what you're going through. But I want you to know that you matter to us. To Lily. You're not just the woman who gave birth to her. You're her birth mother. That's forever. That's important. We'll make sure she knows that as she grows up. After we hung up, I sat on my dorm room bed and cried. Happy tears this time. Grateful tears. Because Sarah and Michael were good people. Because they were keeping their promises. Because I wasn't being erased from Lily's life. Lily's first birthday party was on a Saturday in September. My mom came with me for support. We brought gifts, a soft blanket and some board books. Nothing too big or significant. I didn't want to overstep. Didn't want to act like I was more than what I was. The party was small. Sarah's parents. Michael's parents. A few close friends. And us. We were introduced as Hannah and her mom. No explanation of who I was or why I was there. The other guests probably thought I was a family friend. I was okay with that. I didn't need everyone to know. I just needed to be there. Lily was wearing a pink dress with one embroidered on it. She was crawling everywhere, pulling herself up on furniture, babbling happy nonsense at everyone. She was so different from the tiny newborn I'd held. She was becoming a person. Her own unique little person. Sarah brought out the cake, a small smash cake just for Lily. We all sang happy birthday. Lily looked confused by the cake at first, then dove in with both hands, getting frosting everywhere. Everyone laughed. I laughed too, even as tears streamed down my face. 1 year ago, I'd been giving birth to her. 1 year ago, I'd been holding her for the first time. 1 year ago, I'd been making the hardest decision of my life. And here she was. Happy. Healthy. Loved. Thriving with the parents I'd chosen for her. I'd done the right thing. Looking at her smearing cake on her face and laughing at the attention, I knew I'd done the right thing. But it still hurt. It would probably always hurt. After the party, Sarah pulled me aside. I wanted to give you something, she said, handing me a thick envelope. We've been making a photo album for Lily. For when she's older. It tells her story. Her birth story. About how much you loved her. About the choice you made. About the adoption. I made copies of some of the pages for you. I opened the envelope. Inside were copies of album pages. Photos of me pregnant, one Sarah had taken at the hospital before the placement. Photos of me holding Lily those first 2 days. Photos of the moment I'd handed her to Sarah and Michael. And text. Sarah's words, telling Lily's story. Your birth mother Hannah loved you so much that she made the hardest choice a mother can make. She knew she couldn't give you everything you deserved, so she chose us to be your parents. She picked us to love you and raise you. That doesn't mean she stopped loving you. That doesn't mean she went away. She'll always be part of your life. She'll always be important to your story. You are loved by so many people, Lily. By us, your forever family. And by Hannah, your first family. What a lucky girl you are. I couldn't read the rest through my tears. Thank you, I whispered to Sarah. Thank you for this. For including me. For making sure she'll know. Of course, Sarah said, hugging me. You gave us everything. This is the least we can do. My mom drove home because I was too emotional. I sat in the passenger seat clutching the envelope, thinking about Lily growing up knowing her story. Knowing I'd loved her. Knowing I hadn't abandoned her but had chosen her parents carefully. Maybe that would be enough. Maybe knowing she'd been loved from the beginning, by everyone, would help her understand. Maybe she wouldn't resent me. Maybe she'd see the adoption as what it was, an act of love, not rejection. I could hope for that anyway. Senior year started. I threw myself into my classes. Into therapy. Into building a life that made sense without Lily in it. I made new friends who knew my story. I stopped hiding. Stopped pretending. Started being honest about what I'd been through. The second Christmas came. A year since that first Christmas, when I'd spent all day waiting for a text message and falling apart in secret. This Christmas was different. This Christmas, my family knew. This Christmas, Sarah and Michael invited me to visit on December 26th to celebrate with Lily. This Christmas, I wasn't drowning in secret grief. I was openly mourning and openly healing at the same time. On Christmas morning, I woke up in my childhood bedroom and immediately checked my phone. Sarah had sent the promised message the night before. A photo of Lily in a Christmas dress. A video of her trying to unwrap presents. A text that said, "Thinking of you today, Hannah. Lily is so loved. Thank you for her." I showed the messages to my family over breakfast. We looked at the photos together. My mom cooed over how big Lily had gotten. Emma said she had my smile. My dad was quiet but smiled when he saw the video. "Are you okay?" my mom asked, studying my face. "Yeah," I said. And surprisingly, I was. It hurt. It would always hurt. But I was okay. I was surviving this. I was learning to carry it. The visit on the 26th was good. Lily was 15 months old now. Walking. Starting to say real words. She didn't know who I was still. I was just a familiar visitor. Someone who showed up sometimes and looked at her with intense love. But maybe someday she'd understand. Maybe someday Sarah would show her that photo album and tell her the story. And maybe Lily would understand that she'd always been loved. By everyone. I graduated from college in May. My whole family came, and so did Sarah and Michael. They brought Lily, who was almost 2 and running everywhere and talking in short sentences. After the ceremony, we all took photos together. Me in my cap and gown, holding my diploma, with my family on one side and Sarah, Michael, and Lily on the other. My 2 families. The one I was born into and the one connected to me by the daughter I'd placed. "Congratulations," Sarah said, hugging me. "We're so proud of you. Look what you've accomplished. And you did it while dealing with everything. You're amazing, Hannah." I looked down at Lily, who was clinging to Michael's leg and eating a cookie someone had given her. "I did it for her," I said. "So I could build a life. So I could be someone she'd be proud of someday." "She will be," Sarah said firmly. "She already is." I'd gotten accepted to a graduate program for social work. I was going to become a counselor. Specifically, I wanted to work with birth mothers. With women going through what I'd gone through. I wanted to be the support I'd needed. The person who understood. My experience with Lily, painful as it was, had given me purpose. Had shown me what I wanted to do with my life. Had transformed my trauma into something meaningful. Over the next few years, I built my life. I got my master's degree. Started working at an adoption agency. Met with birth mothers considering placement. Sat with them in their grief. Validated their feelings. Helped them understand that they could make this choice and survive it. I kept visiting Lily. Watching her grow. Watching her turn from a toddler into a little girl. She knew who I was by then. Hannah, she'd call me. Not Mom. Never Mom. But Hannah, which was okay. Which was appropriate. Which was what I was. When Lily was 4, she asked Sarah a question that Sarah told me about later. "Why doesn't Hannah live with us?" Sarah had handled it perfectly. "Because Hannah is your birth mother. She's the one who grew you in her tummy and gave birth to you. But she knew she couldn't take care of a baby at that time in her life. So she chose Daddy and me to be your forever parents. Hannah still loves you very much. She visits because she wants to be part of your life. But we're your family. We're the ones who take care of you every day." "Oh," Lily had said, apparently satisfied with this explanation. "Okay." Someday, when she was older, there would be harder questions. Messier emotions. Possibly resentment or anger or confusion. But for now, she accepted the story she'd been told. She accepted that she had a birth mother who visited and parents who raised her. She accepted her unique family structure. When Lily was 5, she made me a Mother's Day card at school. Sarah sent me a photo of it. To Hannah it said at the top in wobbly kindergarten handwriting, "Thank you for picking my family. Love, Lily." I cried when I saw it. Happy tears and sad tears mixed together. Because she understood, in her 5-year-old way. She understood that I'd chosen her family. That I'd made a decision out of love. That I was still part of her life. I was 27 by then. Working full-time as a counselor. Dating someone who knew my history and supported me. Building a life that included Lily but didn't revolve around her. Learning to be whole on my own. The grief had evolved over 6 years. It wasn't the sharp, cutting pain it had been those first months. It was softer now. More like an ache than a wound. It flared up on certain days, her birthday, Christmas, Mother's Day. But most of the time, it was just background noise. Something I carried but could function with. I went back to therapy sometimes when things got hard. Dr. Chin reminded me that grief wasn't linear. That healing didn't mean the sadness went away. That I could be proud of my choice and still mourn what I'd lost. You'll carry this forever, she told me during one session. But that doesn't mean you can't also be happy. Both things can be true. Both things can be true. I'd learned that lesson well over the years. On Lily's 6th birthday, Sarah and Michael asked if I wanted to be more involved. More regular visits. Maybe video calls between visits. They wanted Lily to have a real relationship with me, not just occasional visits. I said yes. Because I wanted that too. Wanted to know her better. Wanted her to know me. Wanted to be more than just a vague figure in her life. We started video calling once a week. Lily would tell me about school and friends and her favorite TV shows. I'd tell her about my job and my dog and the places I traveled. We built a relationship. Not mother-daughter exactly. Something else. Something unique to us. When Lily was 7, she asked me directly, "Did you want to keep me?" We were sitting in Sarah and Michael's backyard. Just the two of us. Sarah and Michael were inside, giving us space. They'd warned me the question was coming. That Lily had been thinking about it. That she was old enough now to wonder about the details. I took a deep breath. Yes and no, I said honestly. I loved you from the moment I knew you existed. I wanted you to have the best life possible. But I was 21 years old. I was in college. I didn't have money or a partner or any way to take care of a baby. I knew I couldn't give you everything you deserved. So you picked my mom and dad? Lily asked. Yes. I picked them because I knew they would be amazing parents. I knew they would love you and take care of you. And I was right. They're great parents, aren't they? Lily nodded. They're the best. That's why I chose them, I said. Because you deserved the best. And I couldn't be the best for you at that time in my life. But I've never stopped loving you, Lily. I think about you every single day. I'm so proud of you. And I'm so glad I get to know you. I'm glad too, Lily said. Then, after a pause, it's kind of cool having you. Like, I have my regular parents and then I have you too. That's more people who love me. That's exactly right, I said, fighting tears. You have so many people who love you. How lucky is that? Super lucky, Lily agreed, then ran off to play, apparently satisfied with the conversation. Sarah came outside after Lily left. How'd it go? Good, I said. Really good. She gets it. As much as a 7-year-old can get it anyway. She's a smart kid, Sarah said, sitting down next to me. And she's lucky to have you in her life. We all are. I hope you know that, Hannah. I hope you know how much you mean to us. I do, I said. And I meant it. I did know. 7 years after placement, I'd found my place in Lily's life. Not as her mother but as something else. As Hannah. As her birth mother. As someone who loved her and would always be part of her story. Was it what I'd imagined when I first held her in the hospital? No. Nothing about this journey had been what I'd imagined. It had been harder and messier and more complicated than I'd expected. But it had also been more beautiful in some ways. Lily had an amazing life. She had parents who loved her completely. She had grandparents and cousins and friends. She was happy and healthy and thriving. And I'd survived. I'd built a life. I'd turned my pain into purpose. I'd learned that I was stronger than I'd believed. That I could make impossible choices and live with them. That grief and healing could coexist. 8 years after that first Christmas, I had another Christmas morning. I woke up in my own apartment this time, not my parents' house. I'd built a life. A career. A future. I checked my phone and found the expected message from Sarah. Photos of Lily, now 8 years old, opening presents. A video of her playing with her new art supplies. A text, "Merry Christmas, Hannah. Lily wanted me to tell you she misses you and can't wait for our visit next week." I smiled and texted back. "Merry Christmas to you too. Tell Lily I miss her and can't wait either. Thank you for the photos. She's so big." Then I sent Lily a separate message. We texted now, on her tablet with parental supervision. "Merry Christmas, Lily. I love your new art stuff. We should draw together when I visit. Love you." She responded immediately with a string of emojis and "Love you too, Hannah." I made myself coffee and looked out the window at the December morning. 8 years since that first Christmas when I'd spent the entire day falling apart in secret. 8 years of visits and photos and learning how to be Lily's birth mother. It still hurts sometimes. Probably always would. I still grieved what I'd given up. Still wondered what it would have been like to raise her. Still felt that ache of empty arms on hard days. But I'd survived. I'd healed. I'd learned to carry the grief and the love and the complicated mess of feelings that came with open adoption. And Lily was thriving. That's what mattered most. She was happy and loved and whole. She knew her story. She knew she was wanted by everyone. She knew adoption wasn't rejection but a different kind of love. My phone rang. My mom. "Merry Christmas, honey. Are you coming over for dinner later?" "Yeah, I'll be there around 3. "Good. Emma's bringing her new boyfriend. Your dad is already complaining about having to make small talk. It'll be chaos as usual." "Can't wait," I said, and meant it. Because this was my life now. This was what I'd built. Family and friends and a career helping others. And Lily, existing in her parallel life, connected to me but separate. Both things could be true. I could have given her up and still be part of her life. I could have made the hardest choice and still be at peace with it. I could grieve what I'd lost and celebrate what I'd gained. That first Christmas, I'd been drowning. Pretending. Falling apart in secret. I'd been sure I couldn't survive the grief. But here I was. 8 years later. Surviving. Thriving. Building a life that included Lily but wasn't defined by her. Learning that birth mothers could be happy too. That placement wasn't an ending but a transformation. I wasn't the same Hannah who'd given birth at 21. I'd been forged by grief and loss and impossible choices. I'd been remade by pain into someone stronger. Someone more compassionate. Someone who understood that love sometimes meant letting go. I finished my coffee and got ready for Christmas with my family. Before I left, I looked at the photo Sarah had sent one more time. Lily smiling at the camera, holding up a new book, looking absolutely joyful. "Merry Christmas, baby girl," I whispered to the photo. "I love you. I'm so proud of you. And I'm so glad you're exactly where you're supposed to be." Then I grabbed my coat and headed out into the December morning. Into my life. into the future I'd built from the rubble of that impossible choice. The grief was still there. Would probably always be there. But so was the peace. So was the pride. So was the knowledge that I'd done something incredibly difficult and survived it. I'd given my daughter the best life I could. And in the process, I'd learned to live my own life too. That was enough. It had to be enough. And most days, it was. Merry Christmas, Hannah, I thought to myself as I drove to my parents' house. You made it through. You survived. You're okay. And I was. Finally, after 8 years, I was okay.